record it. But do you have any questions or do you need like a deep dive in a particular area? Because I'm more than willing.
Okay, perfect. Well, I have all the questions. But the practice book,
Oh
I
my
didn't
gosh.
I didn't feel like it was a hard class. I thought the first class was a lot more intense because it was a lot of vocabulary based and it was a lot of trying to understand the laws and regulations and whatnot. Now with the second book, I feel like it was a lot of the repetition of the first book, but then when
Interesting.
when I took the test in the system, which I took it at the beginning and I was a little thrown off and I realized that it wasn't the actual test for the new book. And I assumed that they would update it, right? Because
Right.
we were working on this other book.
Right.
So I didn't take him again and I went back when the class ended and I realized that they were completely different, completely off. And
Oh
the
my
way
gosh.
the questionnaires were formulated was really tricky and really very challenging to say the least.
I'm
Uh,
so sorry.
so it was, I guess it gives us a taste of how the California exam is gonna be, but it was definitely intense. So with that being said, it makes me realize that I'm still so behind and that I am not ready for for the
Oh
California
no.
exam. And I did pass. I got a 92%, which
Holy
was
cow.
yeah, so which was really good. The first one I got a 98%, which was really good. And I wish that we would be allowed to see the
See,
exam again so that way we see what we did wrong and what
strengths and
we
weaknesses. Yes.
correct. So at this point, I have a lot of questions where, okay, which ones are the ones that I missed? Which ones are the ones that I didn't answer correctly? And I do have a couple of questions that I was able to copy because again, I literally used every minute. It was so intense that I was an hour and a half into the exam and I wasn't even halfway there.
Oh my
I
gosh.
started freaking out. Yeah, so the first question took me a good 5 to 10 minutes. It was just
Wow.
yes, trying
Oh, the
to
stress. I am so sorry. I just realized I have here, let me move this to um because this is just my house. This is just my you guys can see these I don't know how you are when you do your laundry, but sometimes your duvet doesn't dry in the dryer, so you have to
yes,
like hang it over. So I
yes,
apologize. It's like over my cabinet, um
it's
but
all good.
I'm so grateful that you kept pushing forward to go and just to make it to be successful. And that's really what you need in this industry, especially on this side of the state exam. And so
Mhm.
I'm grateful that you're like, oh no, 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 no. I'm going to pass. I'm going to succeed. So thank you. Thank you for sharing. That's
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah, most definitely. And with that being said, I understand, or you mentioned that you will have some students hopefully when they go and take the exam, and I know that you had one already. You and Adam, I believe, were in the class, and I already watched it. But I was wondering if you're gonna have another student during
Oh,
these 7
absolutely.
days that we have. So because I have questions as like the acronyms. Do we need to learn all the acronyms? I understand like for RESPA and for like maybe the what is it, the credit whatever the name
Oh,
is.
like
But
yeah, like the FICO or ECOA, the Equal
Yes,
Credit Opportunity Act.
opportunity, right? But there are a lot of acronyms that I'm wondering if I need to memorize those acronyms, and also dates. I know that the 1968 is a very important date, so for the Civil Rights Act, but other than that, do we have to memorize a lot of the dates?
Not as many as you would think, but anything truly that is consumer driven, you will be asked about, especially because this is the year of Senate Bill 1495. So you might be asked about SB 1495, and
SB 1495. Okay.
that's the Senate bill that was passed because we have to teach that bias, implicit and explicit bias training.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that's what that whole that practice book was completely full submersion into um everything that you may experience as an agent. And it is that book is boot camp, because even in the midst of teaching, or I'm reading through this, I'm like, that makes sense. I'm like, well, that makes sense to me 23 years in, but if I'm reading this for the first time, this might be a different language,
Mm-hmm.
the
It
way it's
is.
interpreted. And so I was like, okay, how do
It
I?
is.
So that's why even with the PowerPoints that I built, part of the reason I built PowerPoints that go with the book is so that you have something to go back and glean on.
Mm-hmm.
The company has PowerPoints that the instructors will pull resources from, or you can use. And what I mean by you is instructors can use, but we can't share them with the students.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll glean some, you know, the majority of information off of those, but then I'll try to derive what's in the book so you can go to that page. And then
Mm-hmm.
if you see any links to articles or videos or any type of salacious news that's associated with that vocabulary term, I'm trying to grow the resources that are available to strengthen your understanding and retention of the terms, because we're not going. I mean, I don't think you are trying to pass the baby bar or even the bar. I don't know that you're trying to become an attorney in California, but
I'm
because,
not just
right.
a real estate agent.
but
For
but I'm
the time
telling.
being. For the time being.
So I think that
After
the
this book,
process,
I
yeah.
might want to become a lawyer because, but for right now, just a real estate agent.
But the thing is, I feel strongly now that that second book was given, that you could now go past the baby bar because of how intense um the structure was put together for us to, because even
Mhm.
as somebody who's, and so I do like there was that one day where it's like, I don't even know how to explain what the book is trying to say here. It just doesn't make sense. And then it took me a few days, and if it's taking me a few days, it's like, Kathy, make sure that. And then of course I took the time that next class to just go, okay guys, we got to go back to the
Mhm.
scene of the crime and
Right.
fix it and make sure, are we all on the same page. And so um I feel really, I really feel good, and I mean this, about your particular class, because that practice book and the legal aspects book together. Now, principles is good, it's fundamental. It's that foundational of, this is how the country came together and this is why the laws are set in place. And we kind of talked a little bit about that this on Tuesday as well. But I feel very strongly that the practice book and the legal aspects book are going to be the two books that you're going to be able to glean the most accurate information.
Mhm.
Principles is good, but it's the foundation, it's the fundamentals, it's the laying the foundation for you to be able to grow your understanding. But there's something that Colibri offers that's really amazing in your student portal. When you log in,
Mhm.
after you've taken all three, you have to take all three classes first.
Compogram.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that CompuCram is going to, so what happens with CompuCram is you open it up, and then it tells you the different areas that you need to be over like 80%
Mm.
retention on.
Okay.
So it'll give you the opportunity to take one of the exams or a quiz. They're quizzes. It's kind of like an exam because it's timed. So they're getting you just in that same motion that the open book exam did. And then it'll ask you a question, and like, I don't think we studied that. And
Okay.
so then you answer to the best of your ability, and either you get it right or you don't. And if you don't get it right, it'll explain underneath. There'll be
Mhm.
like 4 or 5 sentences that go, this is why,
Mhm.
this is what it's founded on. This is associated with the
Mhm.
Equal Opportunity Act, or this is associated with this, or this is associated with that. And you're like, oh, of course. And then, and a lot of times what I'll do, I'll have a student go, oh, we never went through that. I'm like, oh, that's chapter 2 in the principles book. Like, I know the books well enough that I'm like,
You're like, I
oh, that's,
remember.
but how many people, so as an example, the practice book is 19 chapters, 7 days.
Yes, I
Okay.
know. I felt it. I know. You're
And
telling me.
the one thing I didn't have to do is take the exam, but man, I felt like I was in boot camp. I'm like, how long have you been in the industry? So I was like, how do I connect somebody or a group of somebody's or people that have only kind of touched the water, the tip of the water of real estate for 4 weeks. And then, oh, by the way, we're throwing you in the deep end and there might be sharks, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what do I do? Where, so I really do feel good about the legal aspects book because you guys really have hit the peak of you're don't get me wrong, you're still kind of in boot camp, but now it's the legal side and you're going to go, oh, okay, that makes sense because we talked about that in the class and we
Mhm,
talked about that in the last book. And so,
mhm.
I do feel strongly, but I asked, today we had corporate training for the
Okay.
company, and all of the instructors said the same because we as instructors, it seems like I'm not the only instructor that goes, okay, guys, how do we feel about the exam and different things? And it seemed like a number of the instructors had done the same thing I did, which was, okay, what can we do to strengthen the resources needed to be successful. And almost every instructor had shared that their students said there should be multiple choice questions that we can delve into and glean from for the second book because we had that for the first book and we have that for the third book.
Mhm,
That'll help us prepare. And then there was a number of people that said the same thing, that their students started reviewing the online questions. The online questions weren't the ones associated with the book. And then,
mhm.
and then as you're sharing the exam, it sounds like, who was it in class that said it felt like it almost felt like they had mixed the new book and the old book together. And I'm like, what? On the
Well,
exam.
I didn't feel like um I didn't really feel like it was based on the new book. It was more like it was pulled from limbo. Like it wasn't
Wow.
either or.
Oh no.
So it was, or also probably how everything was worded in the math questions. I was not expecting math questions.
No, because math should
And
have been the principles class. To be honest, the in the
yeah,
curriculum, because you have Appendix A in the principles
or
class.
or
And yeah,
or
wow.
even, I'm sorry, or even what
You're okay.
part of this form you would find this. And that was my second question. Are we
Oh,
gonna have to memorize and know the forms, and which one is the form that might be the most important, that we need to really understand and know? If you're gonna leave your washer and dryer, where is it gonna be? More, not that exactly question, just remember that being in the book. But there were a couple of questions, in what part of this form this would be. And also I had some
ah,
issues with
okay.
I had some issues where on the book, the ebook, I was trying to find, you know how you go Control F and you write
Yes.
the word, or you copy and paste. I'm huge in copy and paste. I just copy and
Heck yeah.
paste, Control F, Control V, Control C, and it was just not finding and it was like the one
Oh
of the
no.
acts, not rest, but the run for or something, like it was just not
Rumford
finding.
Act,
Yeah,
yes.
run for act. It was not finding it. I had literally I had three screens that I work on. So I had one had the old book, the other one had the new book, and then the other one I
Oh my
had
gosh.
the exam, and I had Google, and I had the three books. So it
Wow.
was yeah, it felt like I was in a war. But
Dang. Okay. Well, let's do this. I'm going to open up, I'm going to share the screen as soon as I find it under the prerequisites. So in the second book where there's a few things. The first and foremost, the one disclosure I want you to be aware of is the disclosure regarding agency relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And the
Okay.
reason that, and I'll bring, and I'm going to bring this up like 18, at least 18 more times over the course of the next few classes. And the reason this particular disclosure is so important is it is the first disclosure you must present to your client, whether they're a buyer or they're a seller, because it represents what they can expect from you as their agent, as
Mm-hmm.
well as what they can, or the brokerage, because of course the broker is the agent, but from we're the representative of the brokerage, right? So what they can expect from you as their agent and their brokerage being the agency, and what they can expect the other brokerage, if you're not a
Mm-hmm.
dual, and then if you're a dual agent, what they can expect from you being within the legalities of how that works. Because if you choose to not be what you're supposed to be, they're going to know, because
Mm-hmm.
they have the paper. This is an envelope. Sorry, it's gold. That's not going to help us.
Okay,
They
I see it.
have
I
the
see it.
Kleenex box. But they have that document. And because of the statute of frauds, they can go to court and say, hey,
Mm-hmm.
neither of these agents, or this, or my agent as well as the other agent, did not follow the law, because this was the first disclosure that they shared with me. So the disclosure regarding agency relationships been around since 1988. And the reason it's so powerful is that disclosure isn't just the first disclosure, even before you do a listing, even before you do an offer. The reason it's so powerful is that specific disclosure is identified, if you're the buyer's agent, is identified in the contract for them that they're putting an offer in. It'll actually say, please check this box if you filled this agency disclosure out. And if you're listing the property, it's actually going to say, please check this box if you've already filled out this disclosure. And the reason that is so powerful is when we are working with the clientele and we're building a rapport with them, they, most of the time, we don't know the people we're working with. We know someone in common with them. Like, so and so told me that I should trust you, so I'm going to trust you because I trust them. And so
Mm-hmm.
having this disclosure regarding agency relationship being the very first thing that you sign, or have them sign, and it describes exactly what they can expect from everyone in this whole entire contractual process, right? When they see, if you're about to help them with list their home, that is something that they had to do prior to, then they're going to see it on the listing they were supposed to do that. And then immediately it builds rapport with them, like, oh, she actually does know what she's doing, even though this might be your first experience as
Mm-hmm.
an agent, you know? And so, and the same thing goes when you're the buyer's agent and you're helping them find a home. This specific disclosure in the purchase agreement and joint escrows, and the purchase agreement and joint escrow instruction, so that contract, that offer to put in to try to buy a home, in that one, it also says, please check if you've already filled out this disclosure. So if as an example, we were unorganized agents and we didn't really worry about this agency disclosure, and we start working with our clients, then our clients are like, oh, I can't check that. I haven't filled that form out yet, or I don't think so. Isn't this the first form I've ever, done? And you're like, oh, don't worry about it. It's not that big of a deal. It's going to put a check in the back of their heart or their mind, because they're going to be like, wait a second, why am I not filling? This says I'm supposed to do that first, that kind of thing. But let me, here, I can share this. I don't know why I'm not sharing the screen. Let me share the screen. Uh, but I've gotten better. I used to be in the middle of class and the students are like, you're not sharing the screen, Kathy, again.
You're like, I don't see anything.
Sorry.
I see
I'm
you.
sorry. Let's see. We're going to go into the outlines now. I think it was it chapter 5 or chapter 6? Listing presentation. It might be this one. Let's see. We'll scroll through so that you can go and make sure you have your hand on. Now, there's a few things I have available to you. This one, I do apologize. I have way too many moving parts on my
That's
PowerPoint,
fine.
so it
Thank you.
causes the computer just like kind of flip out. Um, but let's see. I believe this one actually itemizes where in the in the listing presentation or in the listing. If it's not chapter 5, it's chapter 6. And I don't have my other computer set up, so I do apologize, because I could usually click on the wrist and get that one up moving. Oh, I'm slowly clipping. I'm sorry. Is it? Okay, hold on a second. It's not chapter 5. I know that we have it in the practice.
Also was in the practice. Okay.
For sure in the practice. So let's look it up on the PDF, and then that'll help me find it in the outlines.
So do you know if they ask a lot of questions related to the forms that we're supposed to fill out?
It's very consumer driven. It's not as much about what's on the forms, except the one time they will say that is not the one time, but they may ask you based on this story. You know, they'll give you a paragraph that they'll ask you a story, and they'll give you an explanation of the listing agent did this, and the sellers asked for that. Which disclosure would this be associated with? They might ask you about mold, and the reason why mold is really important for you. So listing presentation is
I'm
listing
sorry, ask about
chapter
what?
6. They'll ask you about mold.
Mold. Okay.
Mold is a big deal, and they'll ask you which disclosure is mold identified in, and the disclosure that mold is identified in is not a natural hazard disclosure, because a lot of
Correct.
people will call it.
Yeah, no, you
It's
explained very well, and I know that mold is not a natural hazard because it's earthquake, it's
yeah,
water and fire, right? So
yeah. So
yeah.
in that situation, part of the reason they'll ask you, they'll give you the opportunity for it to be, I didn't mean to open it all the way. Sorry about that. They'll give you the opportunity to figure that out. So on chapter 6, starting on page 38.
Chapter 6, page 38.
We
Residential
actually,
listing.
mhm. So this is when we're helping someone look to list their home. And what I did was, the book gives you a link on the ebook, but there's something going on with the PDFs, and I don't know exactly what it is, the books, because all of the letter Fs, if you copy and paste and drop it in for an outline, because when I was building the PowerPoint and I was looking at different things, if it was a letter F, it was a lowercase f, it might come over as a plus sign. It could come over as, if it was two Fs in a row, it would come over as a capital Y. So it's turning into a symbol instead of cutting and pasting straight across. So I wasn't even able to, in the PDF, to even click on the links that were on the PDF book. And so what I did was, instead of me, and I'm there's a lot of keys that go along with this. I can say I'm tired of the book not having something, or because how effective is that going to be in class? Or I can say I've been in education forever, and curriculum always has a mistake or two, because humans make mistakes. And so we're just going to look past the human aspect of it, because Kathy makes lots of mistakes. So
We
well,
all
so
do.
yeah, so in the PowerPoints, if I have the link, I always try to make sure, it should have clicked on it, but it didn't. I always try to make sure that you're able to open any of the links that I took from the book, and that they go directly to where you need for the reading. So the same thing goes for, at the beginning of each one of the chapters, it said reading for business and profession codes or whatever. So the reason I went to make sure that the links, because even some of the ones in the book, they've even though the book was just recently updated, the Department of Real Estate updated their website within the last 3 weeks, And some of the links are broken because they're no longer
Mhm.
2021, now they're 2023. And I was
Mhm.
like, you've got to be kidding me. So we're really fighting an uphill battle, and that's what happens in this industry, especially during these times of extreme change. So during the crash of 2007, 2008, every week there was a different change because the politicians,
Mhm.
so the laws would be this way. This week we can't do that. It was like during COVID. You if you stay in a hotel, the hotel cannot rent that room out again for another 14 days, or an Airbnb or whatever, and you're just like, wait a second, what? And every time you go into the hotel, they would have to, if you were traveling at all, they'd have to take your temperature and like all these things, and you're like, this is, I feel like I'm in an apocalypse, right? So we're kind of in that um extreme transitional change. So even if the book's links, even if you could say that the F's are turning into symbols through the PDF, I
Mhm.
don't know why, it doesn't matter. I went through to make and made sure that every one of those links, at least through my PowerPoints, you'd be able to click on and go to. So the listing agreement, now this is an old, and I don't mean this to be rude, this is an old version, and that's okay because right here it says revised 4 of 2006. And it's okay. And the reason it's okay is by the time you get into the industry and within this next few months, right?
Mhm.
The
Mhm.
time you get into the industry, you're going to be working off of the car forms, and you're going to be working off of fill in the blanks. You can't fill in the blanks here. These are just PDFs that you're
Mhm.
supposed, and they're the difference between the stuff that happened prior to the crash of 2007, 2008 and what's happening now is there's just a lot more detail. And so if we can start, and this is how I feel about it. I've had students go, "Oh, we need more updated, we need more revised." No, 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 no. We need the fundamentals. We need you to know with the listing agreement, this is what you will look for, what you will be expected to know as a base. And then once we have this retention and the comprehension, we can grow into whatever the disclosures were last year that are changing this year anyway. So even if I
Mhm.
taught you last year's disclosures, they're not going to be the same as this year's disclosures. So
Mhm.
I appreciate the fact that we have these, and this is old, this is way old school. This is like circa 1982, that carbon looking paper.
Mhm.
It's got that sample, but it'll give you the fundamentals, and it does tell you what is in the residential listing agreement. So that's chapter 6, and then I believe it's chapter 7 that has the where the offers, the purchase agreement and joint escrow instructions.
Mhm.
And while that's loading, we'll go back. But you'll notice, I mean, you don't have to notice, I apologize. So I just want to do a little bit refresh review. It's a lot of information to talk to you over in 7 days, right? But you'll actually see that paragraph 1, exclusive right to sell. So we have exclusive right to sell up here. What's the first thing
Mhm.
you see? Well, you've got to
The
put the
name
name of
of
the
the
owner.
owner.
The owner,
Uh-huh.
you know what I mean? Name of the listing brokerage, that would be us, right? The listing
Mhm.
period, that date. So it lets you know that what you're going to have to fill out. Then the next page, you'll notice I have under paragraph 2, any personal property included or excluded. We talked about, I think, Jennifer's grandmother's chandelier. Let's
Mhm.
take that thing down. Let's not leave that thing up. And the whole reason to have those stories when we're walking through this in class together is the book doesn't necessarily have the imagery in
Mhm.
there, right? It just has the like the sentence structure on what to expect to see in paragraph 2. But I felt like this had to be built into us having the class so that when a student asks, where do we find information on what's in in a listing agreement or those kind of specifics, it might feel a little bit like I don't remember us going over that, but we went over so much information. So I just wanted to be able to give you a link to what it was that we presented, and then what it is we went through. It goes through in the entire thing. We go through all of the sections, all of 4, which
Mhm.
is compensation to the broker. I want you to get paid, so we need to know how to fill out number 4 for
Mhm.
sure, right? And then it just keeps going to all of these paragraphs. Now, if this is 2 of 3, and then we did some questions, and then the last page having where the signatures are and what to expect. Once we can become familiar with what to expect to see on these contracts, then there's no fear when you're walking in to work with your broker because you've experienced it maybe through a clinical way of looking at it from an educational perspective. But I don't think it's as scary when you're like, okay, the disclosure is going to look a little bit like this, and these are the fundamentals, and then your broker will basically say, okay, well, since the laws are changing in 2024, or the regulations are required, these regulations are required in 2024, these are the supplemental, or these are the few changes. And so it's an easy transition from understanding just this a standard form to something that's got a lot more detail. And don't get me wrong, these things have a lot of detail. But so I want you to be able to go to chapter 6. Do you recall what the question was with regards to, was it a listing agreement or was it the purchase agreement?
Um, I do not remember, but I know that it was about forms.
Okay, that's okay.
And I I tried to go through the forms. There was one question though that if you don't mind, I know it's already 7.
Let's do it.
Um, Let me find it. I took
It's not advertising. Let's go to.
Oh, there was one question that I wasn't very sure, but I wanted to, and I think I answered it correctly, but I'm still want to ask. It says something between the lines of, let's say agent, or real estate agent Joe works for Mary, and he has a contract with Mary as an independent contractor, but 85% of his paid, he got paid as an employee. How is he gonna be treated when it comes to the IRS? And I put
Oh,
down that it was gonna be as an employee because he got 85% of his pay, although he had a contract as and he said like a smaller percentage he got paid as a contractor. I was a little
okay. Let's
surprised by
talk
the
through that. It's a
okay.
weird one. It's a weird one, but this is how it works. And this is one of those things about California real estate that you're like, that doesn't make any sense. It's like geometry. So, or I should say calculus. Uh, so I'm not trying to make you cry, but this isn't 2 + 2 = 4. This is welcome to America. We don't make sense. You know what I mean? I mean that in the nicest way possible. So in California, the California Franchise Tax Board, they need you to pay workers' compensation to all
Mm-hmm.
your employees, right? Whether it's the
Correct.
receptionist, whether it's
Got it.
a
Yes.
licensed agent,
Mm-hmm.
everyone, California Franchise Tax Board, everybody's an employee because they want you to protect, well, let me put it this way. All people that work under your, let's say you're the broker. Final
The
answer, you're the broker,
brokerage.
okay?
Uh-huh.
So no matter what the job is for anyone that's working for you, even if they only do contractual work and they only if they sell the house, or only if they help find a buyer, are they going to get paid? But the receptionist is always going to get paid because she's answering the phone calls or whatever. Da, da, da. So state of California goes, okay, we're going to just let you know all of the people that come in, even if they only come in once a year for the holiday party, they're considered employees. And we need you to have workers'
Mm-hmm.
compensation insurance over everyone so that if they slip and fall in the parking lot, if there's that protection. It's really a protection for you, but let's be honest, California wants to make some
Mm-hmm.
money. They always want to make money. It is what it is.
Right.
Okay. All right. This is the IRS is like the IRS is like the nosy neighbor. And so the nosy neighbor doesn't really care about workers' comp. They just want to know how much you made, and then they're the IRS, so they want to get 33 or 43% of your money. They just want to know, they're into the salacious, they're into spilling the tea. They need to figure out how much you made so that they can talk smack about how much you did or didn't make. They don't care that you are or aren't an employee. As far as they're concerned, you're not paying them workers' compensation, so you're always a contractual employee. All of you, even you as the broker, are a contractual employee. You have a 1099. You're considered in their heart and mind a non a statute, sorry, the exact term is statutory non-employee. So let's look up statutory non-employee in the book so that I can show you on what page it is, because that is going to be one of the questions you will get on the state exam as well. Statutory non employee.
Okay, while you're looking at that, I'll continue looking at the question, see if I find it.
I think it's in chapter. What chapter is this? Chapter 15. Oh, it wouldn't be chapter 15. Because I'm sorry, not 15. Or maybe it is chapter 15. Specific property manager duties. Independent contractor. I think it's, what chapter is this one? So chapter 16. Let me see if it's chapter 16. Broker salesperson relationship, page 118, I believe. Let me make sure. Sales per independent contractor. Safe harbor test. Yes. If in your practice book, if you jump over to page 118, I can share the. Kathy, share your screen. Sorry about that.
Practice 118?
Yeah, the newer book, the newer book
Yes.
for practice 118, practice 118. So under
Only from employee broker. Uh-huh.
So under not column A, but column or the second column where it's second paragraph or the first sentence in the second I guess it's paragraph. If a salesperson is hired as an independent contractor, it is quite a different story. So under here, a broker can tell an independent contractor what to do. So it's kind of like details that. But the part that I want you to see is 1, 2, 3, like the fourth paragraph down. Most licensees are independent contractors, and it says federal tax laws require what's called a safe harbor test to establish that a person is indeed an independent contractor, or what's called a statutory non-employee. So I think principal's book calls it a statutory non-employee. It's the same thing. There are 3 conditions for the safe harbor test. The person must be properly licensed. The second thing is gross income must be based on production, not the hours worked. So you're like, but the study, but 85% of what he made was W-2 wage earner. Okay,
Correct.
right. So a written agreement must exist, which clearly states the independent contract status. And I don't think that was in the story either. In addition to the above conditions, the broker must supervise. Okay, we can say they supervise.
Mm-hmm.
The way the IRS treats a salesperson as either an employee or an independent contractor applies to the issues of income taxes and withholding obligation. This has nothing to do with the broker's liability for any wrongful acts performed. Now that I read that, and you answered it that they would be a W-2 wage earner because the majority of their income. Well,
Because
now I'm wondering.
85% of their income comes from he has a contract with the broker at the brokerage.
Right.
And but majority of his money he gets from a W-2. And it's only a 15% that he gets from being an independent contractor.
Did they give you the opportunity to answer the question from the perspective of he would be a W-2 and a 1099 wage earner, or
No,
only one
it
or the
was
other?
just he is a W-2.
I
He's a
think you answered it
W-2.
right.
I
I think based on what we just read in the book, I think you answered it right but that's really confusing.
Right. So that type of confusing was the whole exam. So
Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. That is a mess.
sorry. Sorry, I'm still
Usually the state exam. So usually the state exam the questions will be surrounding how does the IRS see you, or how does
Mhm.
the California Franchise Tax Board see you? It's a bit more cut and dry. The California Franchise Tax Board always sees us as employees. The IRS always sees us as independent contractors or statutory non-employees,
So
but they still have to pay
IRS,
taxes.
I'm sorry, the IRS as a statutory.
non-employee,
non-employee,
mhm,
or
or independent contractor.
yeah, okay.
And I think the reason that partially why that happens with the IRS is they get more money from us. You know,
Why
I think
not, right?
we're the only country where we have to tell them how much we made and how much we should pay in taxes, and they can say, "No, you owe us more." You know what I mean? Well, nobody else, I don't think any other countries are set that way. So, um, I'm gonna write this down because
And
I
I
want
yeah,
I want to be able to give a better, I want to be able to see it further in the book, and that I think is about as clear as mud. So let me
this one right here.
statutory
Okay, Jenny Gonzalez.
non-employees,
Okay,
IRS. Let me see if I can't send you additional information to break down the difference, because that's truly what when the real estate exam comes out, they want you to be aware as an agent of the
mm-hmm.
two, of the difference between the two, but that definitely does sound confusing. So Jenny's home appraised for $550,000. Her asking price was $560,000, and the property sold for $575,000. What will be the new owner's pay in property taxes? 5,500 the first year, plus a maximum of 2% increase in the market value per year, 5,600 every year with no increase, 5,750 the first year, plus a maximum 2% increase in market value per year, 5,750 plus a maximum 10% increase in market value per year. So let me go back. What will be the new owner's pay in property taxes, meaning the first year?
That was the question.
So, and the property, okay, so if the property sold for $575,000, property taxes are 1%. So $575,000 times
So
0.01 should be 5,750.
plus a maximum of 2%?
So yeah, yeah, okay. So yes, because of Prop 13. So Prop 13 was put in place so that they cannot increase the value of the home by more than 2% per year. So if the house sold for $575,000, making sure I got that number, times 0.02% means $11,500. So let's add $11,500 to the $575,000, meaning they cannot, the property, that the county assessor, no matter if the value of the home goes to $700,000, the assessor's office, because of Proposition 13, cannot increase what they charge for taxes by more than 2%, more than they did the year prior, meaning that so let me write this in here for you. So the household sold for 575, oops, that's not how you spell five, Kathy, 575, right? Which means that their first year taxes, which are 1%, would equal $5,750, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, starting the second year, if we multiply 575 times 0.02 per, no, well, it's a decimal. I mean, it's not a decimal,
Times
by 2%, right? So it'd be
2%.
0.02.
That would be 11,500. Did I do it right?
0.02. I think so. 11,500. So I'm going to say 11,500, right? Now we add that 11,500 to the 575, and we should have, and I could be wrong because Kathy's only as good as my fat fingers on my calculator on my phone. We should have $586,500. I'm close, right? Now, year two that they've owned the house, if they have not refinanced the house, year two, the the county tax people, I can't spell anything today. Assessors, ISS, assessors office per Proposition 13 cannot exceed assessing the property for more than they can't increase the taxes against the house by more than 2% per year. So $586,500 times times 1% means that the taxes for year two taxes would be assessed at $5,865. And then year three, so we could go one step further so that we can continue the calculation. If we go 586,500 times 0.02, because of Proposition 13, they cannot continue to increase the value of your home by more, they can't tax you higher than 2% from the year before.
So
That's another 11,000. Yeah, go
are
ahead.
you I got confused. I was trying to read the question again, but
That's okay.
so the year two when you're going to do, so I understand when if we can just kind of go back a little.
Yeah.
Okay, so we sold the house for 575 and it's based on the price of the house, not the appraised value. So that's why I was confused if it's based on the appraised value or the
No,
price. Is the
the
price the house
purchase
sold?
price,
Okay.
the purchase,
So the purchase
because
price. So now we go to the purchase price, 575. So the first year they will tax it at 1%. So that will be 5750.
right.
Now the year two, you do 575 times 2%,
Mm-hmm.
it'll be 11. So why do
11, yeah, and then you add
500?
that to, then you add that to the 575.
You add the 11,500 to the 575, so it give us 586, 500.
Now, that is the new assessed value for tax purposes that the assessor is putting against your property in year two, and you multiply that by 1%, that's the property taxes for year two,
Which
which
is
would,
the 5,865.
yeah, yeah.
And now, so do we continue assessing from that 586,500?
Yes.
I'm confused. Okay, so from that number, we take it on every year, or every year they increase the number?
Now see, now you're talking. The assessor doesn't have to increase the value of your home by 2%, because if it's a year where pricing where homes have not increased and homes have decreased, they may not reassess. They can only go a maximum of 2% more each year. They cannot exceed that 2%.
But I was under, okay, so I was under the impression that they only assess when the house sells, when the house is purchased. And because, okay, so we purchased this house in 2019,
Mm-hmm.
and we have noticed that increases not a lot, but it goes climbing up slowly
Mm-hmm.
but surely. And but I was under the impression they only gets assessed when the house is sold. So it gets assessed every year.
Oh, hold on, hold on. You're asking a great question. So the house gets assessed at the full value of the home. So let's say you bought the home for $900,000. Okay. And then interest rates were really good this year. They weren't, but just hear me out. Interest rates were really good this year. And you guys got a 2.75% interest rate, and you pulled out $20,000 to pay off your cars or whatever you
Mhm.
did, right? So the assessor will do just like with a purchase. Oh, the value of the home today is worth 1.4 million. We're going to tax you on the full amount of the value today because you just refinanced and the appraiser said the house is 1.4. So now we can reassess you at the full value of the true value of your home. when your taxes increase by 2% max per year, it's because Proposition 13 is forcing the state of California to not go, oh, because let me give you the exact same scenario without you refinancing. Let's say you bought the house for 900,000, it's worth 1.4 today. Okay. You're not paying 1% on 1.4 million. You're paying 1% property taxes based on when you first bought the home at 900,000, and
Mhm.
then if the assessor incrementally moved it up by 2% each year from the previous year. And that's what Proposition does. It 13, it squelches it. New York has the opposite. If the value is 1.4, they're going to charge you taxes on 1.4 million. So it's hindering the state of California from coming in and going, well, I'm going to charge you the true value of your home today.
Mhm.
I'm not going to tax you on when you bought the home. Proposition 13 was put into place going, hey, they bought the house for $900,000. They've been living in the house for 15 years. You're paying taxes as if the house is worth 1.1, and in 10 years your house is worth 3.4.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm just speaking positivity in your life. I don't know if
Okay.
that's helping you or not, right? You're like, what do you mean, Kathy?
That would be awesome.
Wouldn't it be amazing? So, and I don't know and this is all hypothetical because I don't know how much your house costs. So I don't want to I don't want to undermine what the true cost of any of this stuff was, but to calculate it out, Proposition 13 requires the state of California to not the county assessor's office, and there's 58 counties, right? The county's assessor's office cannot exceed charging you 2% of the value higher any higher than that of the year prior. So they can incrementally raise your taxes in a slow way, but if your house is worth twice as much today than it was when you bought it, the county assessor office can't come to you and go, so your house is worth more and we really need to make more money, so we're going to charge you. Proposition 13 forces them to stay within that 2 percentile. Now your taxes might not raise a full 2% from the year before. They might send you this letter saying, look at what we did for you. We only went up 1%. Aren't you so grateful? And you're
Yeah.
like, no, I'm not grateful. I still paying, dude, but this county assessor always makes it like benefit you. But so long term, so when we talk about like Proposition 60, where you can sell your home and you can take your tax base with you to another
Mhm.
property,
Mhm.
if your tax base is based off of your house that you bought a few years ago for $900,000, and in 15 years, and meaning like you're being assessed for $1 million on a property that's now worth 4, you go buy a $4 million property, you can take your tax base that's lower on your old property. That's what Proposition
Mhm.
60 and 90 are, so that you're not paying this astronomical amount of taxes, because they can't, that county assessor, if they're part of Proposition 60 or 90, they can't increase your taxes higher than what your taxes were previously. And then obviously they can incrementally by 2% a year.
Okay, so
It's okay. Ask me. I know I said a
um
lot.
yes, I'm still confused.
That's okay. Let's start over.
So the 575, I
Hmm.
understand it goes 5,750 with the 1% the first year.
Hmm.
Now the second year, just for the sake of using the 2%, we use the 2%, right? Because that's the most that they can charge. So
Right.
that would be 11,500. So we added those
Okay.
11,500, but only because the first year and I
100. So let's write it down. 11,500 plus the 575,000, right? So we can figure out what the new assessed value is that
so
they've given
so
you.
that's 586, 500. So is there a reason why we didn't add? Oh, so they're doing the 2% so they can do the new assessed value, and from that assessed value, they do a 1%. Um,
Yes. Yes. You did it. I don't know why I'm yelling. There's only two of us here. so so now we know that it's 586, 500. So in year 2, the county assessor's like, okay, 1% of $586, $500 is So we need to figure out what that is. So in year two,
586,500 times
the taxes
1%. That is 5,865.
5,865. And that's what they would charge you for the taxes for year two. So the first year is 5750, right? Year two is 5860. So what's the difference between 5750
Okay,
and
so year two.
5865? So 5865 minus 5750. So basically your property taxes by year two will have increased by $115.
Mm-hmm.
And then year
So
three, it might increase by $120 or
so
$130.
now on year three, would we do the 586 500 plus the 5865?
Well, no. So let's go, let's go year three. So I'm going to put it that way. We're
Okay,
going to do 586,
500.
500 times 2%.
Okay,
Because the assessor is going to continue to increase the value of the property
2%.
by 2%. So we're going to go 586,
Ah,
500 times
Lordy.
2. So that means that there's going to be an increase in assessed value of 11,730. So now we add the 11,730 to the 586,500 value the assessor gave in year two to figure out what they are going to make as the value for year three, right? So
Mhm.
586, 500 plus the 11,730 means 586, 500 plus the 11,730 means they've now assessed your house at 598, 230. So now that's the new assessed value for year three. So the assessor is going to go, hey, we've by year three, or this is year three. Welcome to year three of taxes. We've assessed your house at
Yeah.
$598,230. You owe us times 0.01, $5,982
Yep.
and probably I put 30. I did something wrong. There's 30 cents. I'm sure I calculated
It's
something wrong,
okay.
but
Oh my
and then
goodness.
okay, but
Yeah.
you can, but the reason we started over and went back to the beginning isn't because, well, let me say this. This isn't necessarily easy because you're like, wait, why are they charging me two when you told me the taxes are one? Well,
Yes, I got
they're
it. They're adding the
reevaluating.
excess value. Oh my
Yes.
gosh.
Okay. So,
Okay. So needless to say, that was a tough one. That question was tough. So,
but this is totally why we have Wednesday nights. Does that help?
it totally does. It definitely. Oh
Now,
gosh.
we received three special assessment bills. We've only had the house the 1 year, and we received a, hey, thanks for paying the taxes. And then we received a, hey, you didn't pay enough taxes. Oh, by the way, and it doesn't say it this way. This is Kathy's interpretation. Oh, by the way, if you're a new owner, please put the new owner's name and number and information on the back of the bill. And I was like, this is weird. Yeah, we're the new owner. I hope wait, are we the owner? How long have you been in this industry? Immediately, I'm like, am I a new real estate agent? Because I think we did this stuff right. I just don't know. You know what I mean? Anyway, and then we received a letter from the assessor's office saying, we understand you bought the house for what you bought it for, but we know the value of the land in the area and the property, and we believe this is the value. So they increased it by
Wow.
more
Okay.
because they feel like we got the house for too little. And
How dare you?
And all I
How
can, yeah,
dare you
I know,
to not pay
rude.
full value, market value.
So they made an argument for that. I'm like, okay, whatever. So we paid that off, we paid that, and then
Oh my
we got a
gosh.
letter from them that said you overpaid by like $700 or something like that. And I'm like, what, dude? We're only paying what the bill said. We're not like rounding up. We're not, this
Right.
isn't an Acorn app. We're not adding the change to it. Say, look, come on, bro. We're just trying to make sure the property doesn't go into a tax lien, a property tax lien. So anyway, this so we can use this exact same example in New York. New York doesn't have Proposition 13. So instead of it incrementally going, this is what I understand of how taxes work in the state of California. Excuse me, state of New York, is that if your house is worth 1.4 million today, they assess you on whatever their state tax is. Let's say their state tax is 1.2. So your taxes could jump from 900,000 last year to 1.4 million this
Oh
year.
my
And
God.
that's the way the cookie crumbles. Now, that's how California was before Proposition 13 came in. And then those additions, Proposition 58, where you can transfer the property to your kids and
Mhm,
potentially, there's no guarantees in life, potentially they won't reassess the value of the property today because it is
mm,
your blood relative.
mhm,
But then being able to transfer your property taxes, sell your property there, go buy a house on Venice Beach at that same price point and have the tax base from your old home, that's pretty sweet, you
mhm.
know.
It is.
So but it's maybe this is one of those examples where it makes a lot of sense why they go, this is why realtors don't do the math side. You've got to go take that national exam, the NMLS, to make sure that you understand the crunching of the numbers and the financial side of things, because so many buyers during the crash of 2007 2008 were like, we don't even know what we don't even know what we're paying for. Like we don't,
Yeah.
you can kind of feel that, right? You're like, oh wait, what's my tax, wait, how do we, yeah.
I mean, seriously, we get the bill and we're like, okay, well, we have to pay. I guess they know what they're doing,
I
and they
hope
for
so.
sure know they want to take my money. So let's pay the taxes. But like this question really made me think about it. And then I was looking at our tax bill, and I started looking. I was like, the year before was different. It continues increasing and it increases more. So yeah, with that said, you did mention in the class that and I don't remember what exactly it is called, where you have 7,000 you
Yes.
have to fill it out by January. I don't remember doing it, and also would that make them assess my house for full market value right now? Or
No. Okay, let's use the last number. So let's use the 500, let's use the 598,230. That's in the chat, okay?
598
Because
to 30.
yeah,
Okay.
okay. So let's say you did, it's called a homeowner's exemption. And if you
Okay.
go in, so write that down, homeowner's exemption, you can go to your local county office online and look that up. So you're allowed to have $7,000 written off. So if we put in 5,900, sorry, 5,000, God bless America,
598 to
598, yeah,
30. Uh-huh.
230 minus $7,000,
Mm-hmm.
then what happens is no matter what they have assessed your home for, they must subtract 7,000 from that every year. So instead of them asking you to pay taxes on 598, 230, you're paying taxes on 591.
591 to 30.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, but it would not cost for them to reassess my
Heck
house. Okay.
no.
So,
And yeah, you only have to do it once and it happens the rest of the time you've owned it.
okay,
But if you're a veteran, you have to do it every year and you can only get
the
4,000.
4,000. Yeah, the 4,000.
Yeah.
Yes. So where do you say I go for this?
So go to whatever county that you live in, look up the county assessor's office for that county.
So Riverside
Hmm. Put in
County.
for property taxes. They would have the form online. Ours actually came in the mail with one of our bills, only one, those people. I'm just kidding. Rude, how rude. And if you if you guys are watching this on recording and you work for the assessor's office, how dare
S-
you?
Send it every time you send the bill.
Yes, yeah, waste your paper. We
That
already cut.
should be a rule. We're paying enough.
Exactly. Yeah.
Sure, we're paying for your ink and your paper.
Absolutely. You can find it online, and I would venture to say in 2024, because we are very close to a paperless society, that you might be able to fill it out online. Now, the hiccup is if it goes past the expiration date that they needed it in by, that means it just hits next year. That
But
doesn't
it'll
mean that you have
hit
to, yeah,
eventually.
exactly.
Right.
That's how I feel. I'm like, that's okay. I'm
It,
good.
and you said it has to be done by January, right?
Yeah,
It's by
yeah,
January. Okay.
yeah.
I can definitely do it. I just did not want to trigger any more taxes and already yes, our yeah, the house increased in value tremendously, so it's
Nice.
really awesome. But yes, we don't want to pay more taxes.
No, and thank God for Proposition 13. Thank God we're not in New York, you know what I mean?
Hmm. Most
So we,
definitely.
or what other states have issues with, but hopefully that, ask me another one. Let's do another one.
Well, I feel like I have taken so much of your time.
Well, then let's hit the ground running next Wednesday. And hopefully, I'm not either way. I'm not worried about it. Um, also, I've got like 4 students that just passed the exam right before the holidays or during the holidays, and
Yay.
they asked to come in, and or I asked them to come in, and I don't mind having them come in, but I, I didn't want anyone to try to balance out December 27th, or I was like, let's
Mhm.
get into the new year, but let me see if I can't get somebody to come in on Wednesday of this coming week, and then that
Yeah.
way you guys, then everybody, and I'll let everybody know tomorrow and also on Tuesday, and then my weekend class and Glendale and UCLA if they want to
Yeah.
come in and ask me. We're back in the mix, but
Oh
I'll ask them.
gosh.
But hey, never, please, 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 always feel good about asking these, because we. I, how do you feel now versus when we started?
Oh, I feel a lot better for sure. Especially that I know how much they're charging me again for taxes. No, I do. I do feel a lot better, and I think I have a better understanding. And that question has been in my mind, both of those. And I did take a picture, but I have so much in my computer. I'm like trying to go through and but I do take other pictures, which I should be able to type them and send them to you so that you can see if you can break it down for us. Because
Heck
again,
yeah.
like I said, I wish that they would allow us to see the exam so that way we are able to go through them. But it is what it is.
Well, but the thing is, you're honest,
Mm-hmm.
and how many other people out there are wanting the exam so that they can
Oh,
leak it out, you know what I mean?
yeah,
And
true.
that's the unfortunate thing, is it's not you. It's not unfortunate, sorry, let me
Yeah.
say that I
No, no,
can't
it's
have,
no, it's okay. It's one person ruins it for everybody else.
and
So
it's the worst, you know what I mean?
yes,
So
yes.
okay, cool, cool. I know that this recording is actually going to spur a number of students to go, oh my God, I took a picture, or I wrote something down too. And so I think that this will, there, I love that you're asking, because anything you ask, there's got to be at least 3 or 4 other people in our class or in another class that are like, man, I really wish that we knew this or that. So please never feel bad about that. Text me, email me. I'm trying to always do Wednesdays, and there'll always be time for us to break these down. Now, the IRS question is, I'm still kind of going, okay, wait a minute. I think you answered it right, but I want to deep dive that. And then hopefully I can have an answer before Wednesday of next week, to be able to clearly define, like, yes, you definitely answered that right. Or that sounds like such a crazy question. It could be this answer or that answer, and then be able to clearly uh, walk through why. And
Hmm.
sometimes the questions are so confusing,
Yes,
you know, and
I
I am so
agree.
sorry about that. And once we get to the end of the third book and you're in CompuCram, it's like 1 or 2 words trigger, like, oh,
Hmm.
that's what they were asking. And
Hmm.
that's when it's so frustrating, especially when I'm like, that's not what they're asking. They're asking that, and then it's like, oh, Kathy, it said there,
Well,
or it said, you know,
and I think the way you read the question a lot of times, if I'm doing the test, I'm doing the prep agent. Thank you for sharing all the information. I'm
heck yeah.
going into prep agent and doing the test, and I read it, and then if I get it wrong, I go back, I'm like, oh my God, this is what it means.
Yeah,
But
but it's like that
yes,
one word or
but
that
yes,
one, and you're like,
it's
oh,
that you missed it, that I didn't read correctly. But yes, it's definitely the way you how you run the sentence. But yeah. But anyways, I do not want to take any more of your time. Thank you so
thank
much.
you for
And
your time. Oh my gosh.
I will for sure have type some other questions. I did take pictures. I wish I could have taken picture of all of them, but I didn't have a chance. I used the three
Absolutely.
hours. But
Hey.
yeah, most definitely. Thank you so much, Kathleen. I really
Of
appreciate it.
course. Oh, absolutely. And then, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, everybody above and beyond that is watching the recording, please know that Wednesday nights are come in and ask questions nights. And that goes for UCLA, for Glendale, for Colibri, for LACCD. It doesn't have to be just one student at a time, but this was fun for me.
And it was for me.
Awesome.
I
I
had all
love it.
the
I
time
love
for
it.
myself. Thank you.
Of
Thank you.
course. Of
Bye bye.
course. Be blessed and encouraged. I'll see you tomorrow.
Bye bye. See you tomorrow.